Hello and welcome into this week's NASCAR Gander Outdoors Truck Series Rewind show right here on Racing News Now. As always, I'm your host, Garth Allen. Thank you once again for joining me today. If this is your first time catching a Racing News Now video, consider going down below to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications so you don't miss a thing going forward from R&N. On today's Trucks Rewind, we're looking back at Friday night's Lucas Oil 25th Annual Lucas Oil 150. 150 laps, 150 miles around the 1 mile ISM Raceway in Avondale, Arizona, outside of Phoenix. Pretty good race overall. Lots of drama surrounding the Championship 4. Who's going to make it, who's not going to make it into the Championship 4. Overall, I wouldn't say it was a classic Phoenix race. It's not going to be one that we remember years from now. Honestly, we may not even remember it next week. But was it a terrible race? No. Maybe by Truck Series standards, as we generally see a lot of really good races in the Truck Series. But, you know, it wasn't bad. It was one that I think, for the most part, could hold your attention for the duration of the race, which isn't always the case in some series. 5 caution flags for a total of 30 laps. First one came at lap 3, very early, as the 51 of Brandon Jones spun in turn 2. Lap 24, the 19 of Derek Kraus and the 8 of John Hunter Nemechek got together in turn 4. Unfortunately, this would be the end of the night for Derek Kraus. John Hunter Nemechek would soldier on, but wouldn't be a great night for him. This is not going to be the first time this is not going to be the last time we're going to talk about him in this caution recap. Stage 1 concluded at lap 45. Ben Rhodes took the Stage 1 victory. No incidents that caused a caution in Stage 2. That ended at lap 90. Good rebound for Brandon Jones after that spin on lap 3. He came back to win Stage 2. And did play a pretty good factor in the latter portions of this race. That 51 truck was pretty fast. I know a lot of people give Brandon Jones a lot of flack, which some of it may be deserved. Some people may say a lot of it is deserved. But he drove a really good race tonight. I will give him credit for that. Lap 101, final caution of the night. Again, John Hunter Nemechek this time getting together with Sam Mayer in turn 3. This would be the end of John Hunter Nemechek's night. Sam Mayer would soldier on, but unfortunately would not be the night he was looking for after this. 9 lead changes among 7 drivers. 47 laps went to Ben Rhodes. That would be the most of anyone in this race. Close behind, though, was Stewart Friesen. He led 44 laps. 36 laps went to Brandon Jones. 16 laps were led by Sheldon Creed. He was very fast tonight. Had a really fast truck. So later in the season, I think we're seeing some really good stuff out of Sheldon Creed. I think he's finally figured out these trucks completely, and I think we're just seeing the beginning of what Sheldon Creed can do in these trucks. 5 laps went to Johnny Sauter. 1 lap apiece went to Chandler Smith and Austin Hill. No, excuse me, Todd Gilliland. All right, on to your results. Ben Rhodes won the first stage and led the most laps. Brandon Jones won the second stage, led a lot of laps. Got back from that very early spin at the beginning of the race to be a real contender in this race. Stewart Friesen led a lot of laps. Sheldon Creed led a lot of laps. There were a lot of really strong trucks in this race that traded the lead a good amount of times here. But who would come out on top in the desert? Would it be a playoff contender that would punch their ticket into the Championship 4 at Homestead? And it would be Stewart Friesen picking up his first pavement win in the Truck Series. Remember, he got his first career truck win earlier this season at Eldora, finally able to pick up a pavement win, this time in Phoenix, to lock himself into the Championship 4. I think that's just kind of the culmination of a really strong season for Stewart Friesen. I think realistically, unless he had a really bad night, he was going to make the Championship 4 no matter what. He was pretty safe in on points, but this win kind of secures him. And really, the question I want to raise here is, does this make Stewart Friesen the championship favorite heading into Homestead? Let me know down in the comments, what do you think right now? Does this win really kind of position Stewart Friesen as the championship favorite heading into Homestead. Remember, he's the only playoff contender that was able to win a race in this round of 6. Remember, Spencer Boyd won at Talladega and Todd Gilliland won at Martinsville, neither of which were in the playoffs. So, does that mean Stewart Friesen is really the top guy of the 4 that made it to the championship 4? That is the question we must ask ourselves here. Honestly, I think it really... I don't know that it necessarily makes him the favorite, because again, if you look at the entire season, it's clearly Ross Chastain and Brett Moffitt that are the 2 strongest trucks. They have been all season. But I don't know. I think with Stewart Friesen basically being a GMS truck and basically a teammate to Brett Moffitt, not necessarily in name, because he doesn't actually drive a GMS truck, but realistically, all the parts and pieces and everything come from GMS, so it's essentially a GMS truck, even if it's not a GMS truck in name. I think this might be setting Stewart Friesen up to be the upset championship winner next week in Homestead. Brandon Jones did come home with a strong second-place finish. Chandler Smith, good run for him in the 3rd position, showing what he can do here in the Truck Series. Ben Rhodes in 4th, Grant Enfinger rounds out the top 5. Rest of your top 10, Matt Crafton, your second highest playoff contender. Would that be enough to get him into the championship 4? We'll find out here in a moment. Harrison Burton in 7th, Johnny Sauter 8th. Ross Chastain, a little bit of an off night for him. Really wasn't much of a contender on the night. Did finish 4th in the first stage, but was not in the top 10 in the second stage, and really just kind of ran back there in that like 8th to 15th bracket a lot of the night. Not really a night that you'd come to expect from Ross Chastain after the season he has had. And that's another question I want to pose to you. Does that make you a little worried for Ross Chastain heading into Homestead? I think he's, like we talked about, he and Brett Moffitt have kind of been the 2 strongest trucks all season. But again, we see Brett Moffitt here in 10th. These 2 guys finishing in the final 2 spots in the top 10 here, really neither one were real contenders tonight. Should they be worried right now? They've been the 2 that we've looked at as the real championship contenders all season. But now that we're down to crunch time, are they really the championship contenders? Or is Stewart Friesen kind of the guy that everybody's kind of overlooking and really should be the guy that we're really looking at right now? 11th through 20th, Ty Majeski making his Truck Series debut in the 44 for Nice Motorsports. Good run on the night. Didn't pick up any stage points. Was not in the top 10 in either stage, but did finish 11th. Had a strong run going. And I think he ran about where Ross Chastain ran all night. So I think in that respect, I think we can call this a good night for Ty Majeski, because I think Ty showed he can really run those Nice Motorsports trucks about where Ross Chastain can, which I think Ross Chastain has been overperforming in those trucks this season. So I think that means Ty Majeski can overperform in those trucks. So what does that say about Ty Majeski's skill level? I think that tells us that Ty Majeski is a very good driver, which a lot of us knew already, but I think this just kind of really puts a spotlight on it and shows us that, hey, Ty Majeski really is as good as we think he is. He really does deserve a top-tier ride next year in Xfinity or trucks to really be able to show what he can do. I mean, we saw what he can do this year in ARCA. He went out and flat dominated. But every single race he went out in ARCA this year, he was a contender for the win and did win a lot of those races. So Ty Majeski has shown this year in 2019 that he has the talent and deserves to be in this sport, and hopefully that translates to a good ride for him next year. Sheldon Creed there in 12th, not indicative of the night he had. Again, led 16 laps, was up front for a good portion of the night, started in the 3rd position. I think we're just starting to see some really good stuff out of Sheldon Creed. And again, it was announced, I believe it was earlier this week, that he and Brett Moffitt will both be back at GMS next year in the trucks, with Sam Mayer running a partial schedule as well. So with another full season next year, with this full season under his belt, I think we're going to see a really good year in 2020 out of Sheldon Creed in the trucks. Austin Hill in 13th, not the best finish. A little lower than what he ran most of the night. 7th in the first stage, 6th in the second stage. Was that good enough to advance him to the Championship 4? Honestly, I don't think 13th is a Championship 4 worthy performance, but did he have enough points that he could lock himself into that Championship 4? We will see in a moment. Todd Gilliland there in the 14th position, your winner from Martinsville, picked up his first career win a couple weeks ago. Tanner Gray, second career Truck Series start there in 17th. Sam Mayer came home in 19th after that late incident with John Hunter Nemechek. 21st through 30th, Natalie Decker down here in the 22nd position. Carson Hocevar, 23rd. Tyler Ankrum, after a few issues on the night, came home 6 laps down in the 26th position. John Hunter Nemechek down here after his couple of incidents on the night, 29th. Final page, 31st, 32nd, Derek Kraus and Joe Nemechek. All right, so that is your results from the Lucas Oil 150. Let's head over to the Media Center, and we will see what Stewart and his team had to say after their second win of the season.
It's perfect. Great timing to build some momentum for the championship. We have a great truck today that GMS Fab Shop built for us, and it's good. We got our favorite truck we're running next week that we've got a lot of time under our belt with, and going to Homestead with good notebook on that truck, a good notebook on the track, and some momentum. So it's all good.
More or less, I was mad. And I usually don't get mad, and usually I'm trying to ask him not to be so mad because you got a more stressful job than I do at that point. But this time I told you, you don't need to be mad because I took over on that part. I mean, I was just livid at the call, and I didn't get to see what went on around there, more than a glimpse of TV when it happened live. But I just thought, once again, it's kind of dabbling in what's going on here. That's the way I felt. It doesn't mean that's what happened, but at the moment, that's what I felt, and I just want to get my point across. But as far as coming back from that, I didn't have any doubt in that. I really didn't. I thought when we got here after 1 or 2 laps on the track that we had what we needed to win, balance-wise, with this new truck. And then even after they put us to the rear, I thought, well, that's not even that big of it's not even a big enough setback. There's no damage. That's not enough right now to keep us from not beating everybody in the field. So and I'm not being arrogant that way. I felt that way the whole day, right?
No, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the way it's been all day today. It's nice. It doesn't happen very often. So.
All right, so let's take a look at your playoff grid for the final time this season. Let's take a look at who your Championship 4 is. And again, let's refresh you on where your playoff contenders, your 6 playoff contenders that came into this race, where they finished in this race. Again, Stewart Friesen won the race. And then you got to look a little ways down the running order to Matt Crafton in 6th. Ross Chastain finished 9th. Brett Moffitt finished 10th. Austin Hill in 13th. And Tyler Ankrum down in the 26th position after his few incidents on the night. So, that being said, here are your Championship 4 for 2019 in the Gander Outdoors Truck Series, and it is Stewart Friesen, Ross Chastain, Brett Moffitt, and Matt Crafton was able to point his way in without a win. I think that is the biggest shock here of all. Matt Crafton has run an incredibly consistent season, but I don't think we expected him to make the Championship 4 without a win. This is honestly an incredible feat for him to be able to do this. When you look at the guys that have been knocked out of the playoffs thus far, Austin Hill most notably has 3 wins this season. Then you've got Johnny Sauter with a win, Tyler Ankrum with a win as well. Then Grant Enfinger won the regular season championship, even though he didn't have a win either. So the drivers that have been knocked out to this point have had fairly stout seasons, and Matt Crafton was able to consistently enough point his way into the championship 4 without a win. Now, that being said, he's alongside 3 drivers that have picked up a lot of wins this season. Stewart Friesen now has 2 wins on the season at Eldora and here at ISM Raceway in Phoenix. Ross Chastain has 3 wins this season, and Brett Moffitt has 4 wins. So combined, among the 4 Championship 4 drivers, there are 9 wins total out of the 22 races thus far this season. It's a pretty good total there, even with one of those drivers being winless thus far this season. Now, before we get into this, I want to let me know down in the comments who your championship pick is. Out of these 4 drivers that made the championship 4, who is going to win the championship next week in Homestead? Who will be the 2019 Truck Series champion? And I think you could make a solid argument for every one of these drivers. I mean, you look at Matt Crafton. He knows how to win a championship. He may not have won a race this season, but he knows how to win a championship. He's won 2 of them in the Truck Series. He knows how to win this Truck Series championship. No, he has not done it under this format, but he has won himself 2 Truck Series championships. He knows how to deal with that pressure in Homestead. Brett Moffitt, your defending champion. He won 6 races last year, including Homestead, on his way to the championship. Now, that being said, he also won Phoenix last year, which is what locked him into that championship 4. He didn't have a stellar run this week in Phoenix. Finished in 10th, wasn't really a contender for the win most of the day. So the question there becomes, is Brett Moffitt still in championship form? We've seen him all throughout this season. He and Ross Chastain have been your 2 big championship contenders in this series. But is Brett Moffitt slipping a little here late in the season? It's a very solid possibility. And the same thing with Ross Chastain. Again, he and Brett Moffitt have kind of been your 2 heavyweights this season in the Truck Series. But he didn't have a stellar run at Phoenix either. Is it possible the Ross Chastain is not on top of his game either? So then that opens the door for Stewart Friesen, who had not won a Truck Series race before this season, has been extremely consistent and running up front, contending for wins the last couple of years, but just hadn't been able to do it until Eldora this year. Now that he's won a couple of races, now that he's finally broken through and won a pavement race, what does that say for his chances in Homestead? Like we were talking about when we were on the results, does this make him the favorite heading into Homestead? Is he now the guy we are looking at to say, Stewart Friesen is the guy to beat in Homestead? Is that how we're looking at this? Or are Ross Chastain and Brett Moffitt still the 2 top dogs in this series? And if you're going to win the championship, you've got to beat those 2. All very valid questions right now. And I think, like I said, let me know down in the comments, who do you think of these 4 will win the championship in Homestead? It's very hard to pick among these 4 because I think any of this is probably the strongest championship 4 we've had in the Truck Series since the introduction of the playoff format. And again, it's not, admittedly, we haven't had a championship 4 for very long in the Truck Series. But again, I think this is the strongest championship 4 we've had. All 4 drivers, I think, realistically, are very good, have very good shots to win this championship. That being said, I think one driver has stuck out all season long and has been the driver that he may not have had a fantastic run at Phoenix, but I've looked at him all this season and really truly believe that he, for some reason, is meant to win this championship this year. And he's had a very weird season, from having a win stripped away from him because he failed post-race inspection, to, at the beginning of the year, not even running for Truck Series points. He declared in the middle of the season with like 8 races to go before the playoffs that he was going to run for the Truck Series Championship, and he was foregoing his Xfinity Series points. Of course, you know I'm talking about Ross Chastain. Ross Chastain is my pick for this championship still. I've looked at him all this season. Yes, Brett Moffitt has been extremely strong this season, and not surprisingly, he went over to arguably the best team in the Truck Series, if not the best team in the Truck Series, one of the top 3 this season. After driving in a truck that he was admittedly overperforming in last year and winning the championship, there were high expectations for him this year. And while he hasn't won as many races as he did last year, it's been a stellar season for Brett Moffitt, and he's been a really tough adversary for Ross Chastain. That being said, from the very beginning of this season, this season has just had Ross Chastain's name written on it. From the moment that he declared he was running for Truck Series points, it just felt like something special. And I know there are going to be all those people out there, and honestly, I feel like there's not going to be as many people as if certain drivers had done this, but all these people saying that, oh, he didn't run all the races, so he shouldn't win the championship, when in fact, he did run all the races. He just wasn't running for points in the first part of the season. And again, I don't know if that changes anything in the minds of the people making that argument. And I feel like that the people making that argument, there's not going to be as many because Ross Chastain is popular. There's not going to be near as many people making that argument as there were against Kyle Busch in 2015, because Kyle Busch admittedly is a lot less popular than Ross Chastain. So, and I think in a sense that is a valid argument. He didn't he didn't earn points for all the races, yet he's on an even playing field that as long as he beats Stewart, Friesen, Brett Moffitt, and Matt Crafton at Homestead, he'll be the champion. So, there is an argument to be made there. I will admit that. But that being said, it's just from the moment that he declared for Truck Series points this season, it has felt like a Ross Chastain season. So with all that being said, and with everything that has happened this season, I still think Ross Chastain wins this championship. Even with a slightly mediocre day in Phoenix, I think he rebounds very well in Homestead. I think he wins the race at Homestead. Caps off the season. And essentially with a playoff format, we've come to expect that you kind of have to win at Homestead. Very rarely have we had a race now under this kind of a format where the driver that wins the championship didn't win the race at Homestead. So, but I think Ross Chastain will go out. He will win this race, and he will win the 2019 Truck Series Championship. So that is your championship for Homestead-Miami in 1 week for the Truck Series this season. Like I said, let me know down in the comments, who do you think is going to be the 2019 Truck Series champion of these 4 drivers? Ross Chastain, Brett Moffitt, Stewart Friesen, and Matt Crafton. Let me know down in the comments. But I think that'll do it for this Truck Series Rewind. K&N West Rewind coming up tomorrow night for their final race of the season there at Phoenix. There's a lot of names in this entry list that I did not expect, so could see a surprise winner in this race, that a name that we haven't seen in the K&N West Series all season. So who knows? It is very possible in this race, so we could have a surprise winner here. So definitely check that out tomorrow night, and then of course Cup Series Rewind Sunday night for their race in Phoenix to lock in their championship for Homestead next week as well. So if you haven't done it already, you need to go down below, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications so you don't miss a thing going forward from RNN. While you're down there, why don't you hit that big thumbs up button if you like the video. It is much appreciated when you do. But at that, this has been the NASCAR Gander Outdoors Truck Series Rewind Show. I'm Garth Allen for Racing News Now.